Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host for tonight. No, that isn't a remix, folks. I don't like repeating myself, but apparently I'm gonna have to, because for some reason, unexplainable to me, these people cannot get it out of their rear ends as to what is going on with solving gun crime, and especially mass shooters. So I've got that on tap for tonight. There are a couple things that popped. There's a lot of crap that popped this week. And I'll be honest with you. It's just way too much for me to cover. I would love to talk about it and everything, but there's just so much stuff that we got to cover tonight. And that we gotta go through. It's amazing. All of the things that are happening, even just, here in the last hour, something popped, and I don't even have it in the show notes because it is so hot off the presses. Okay. But excuse me, but I do have something that is hot off the presses for me. And that is tonight I am drinking or gonna try and drink Buffalo Trace whiskey. I'm going to give this a shot, and it's kind of interesting. I've never had this before, but I'm going to give this Buffalo Trace a try. So let me go ahead and okay. All right. I'm liking this, the scent of it, but here, let me go ahead and pour. I got to get it in the glass. Yep. All right. And this, my wife actually got this. I mentioned it to her the other night, and she went ahead and was like, "Hey, I happened to find it." So anyway, so that was cool. She brought it home for me. Last night, I took the wrapper off the top of the bottle, and she goes, "Aren't you going to try it?" And I went, "No, that's what I have to do for Wednesday." And yes, Buffalo Trace is actually a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So it is a bourbon there, buddy. All right. So let me go ahead and there's not really much of a scent to it, to be honest with you. I mean, at least it's not like extreme, overwhelming kind of scent. Got to get my nose in it. All right. Oh, that's smooth. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to go through this bottle and then maybe end up re-ranking some things. That's smooth. I'm going to have to pay it. So, that's some good stuff. I think I like it. All right. Let me get to tonight's sponsor, affiliate, of course. Where is, I always forget which one this is. Okay. And tonight, of course, we're going to talk about True Grit Roots Network. TGRN champions independent artists while paying respect to the pioneers who shaped modern roots music, featuring outlaw country, blues, and rock with a unique twist of urban that is carefully selected and purposely put together. We are the radio highway that connects the back roads, highways, and city streets to your favorite dance hall, roadhouse, and juke joint. TGRN provides original exclusive programming and interviews that are produced and hosted by our own team of DJs, hosts, and personalities. Find us on the web at tgrn.net to download our app in the App Store and from Google Play. Alternatively, you can find us in the Live 365 catalog of digital radio stations and through the Live 365 app as well. You can also play our station on your Amazon Alexa by saying play True Grit Roots Network from Live 365. Be sure to use the word from in the command play True Grit Roots Network from Live 365. Live 365 is also on Roku as well, so you can play it through your television set. Breaking boundaries for authentic roots radio, TGRN True Grit Roots Network, Austin, Texas. And of course, full disclosure, I am a partner in True Grit Roots Network, just so everybody knows. Okay, wow. Buffalo Trace actually is pretty dang good. I don't know why I didn't, I honestly don't know why I didn't do it earlier. Hang on just a second, guys. Let me just check something real quick, because I wonder if, oh no. Okay. She's not here yet. I thought Mrs. Whiskey might have been locked out. That was who just called. Anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and get this started. I have been in a sparring match on Twitter. And I mean, let's be honest with you. It's on Twitter. You know, they're not the smartest people in the world who are trolling Twitter, but I can tell you this much, that they are very, very adamant about their positions, even though their positions are oftentimes completely false. One of the things that I've been dealing with in the last couple days has been the whole argument about gun control and gun control laws. For those of you that don't know, Washington has just passed a law dealing with the sale, manufacture, importation, all these things about the assault rifles. And so, of course, I've been going around and I've been telling people like, okay, you know, some of my standard shtick, assault being a verb, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that hit was I don't know if anybody knows, but there was a Washington Post article here not too long ago that had a video that kind of went along with it. And that video was a animation of what they say is, what happens when an AR-15 bullet hits the human body. And of course, you've heard Joe Biden say the words like, oh, it goes into the body and it explodes. It can tear off body parts. It can do all of these things, right? And so it's the Washington Post, first of all, that's a left-leaning newspaper. And so I was a little like taken aback by that. But that being the case, and I'm sorry, buddy. Yes, you're right. It was Washington State, not, maybe I made that. I want to make that abundantly clear. It was Washington State that just passed through the legislature. It hasn't been signed by the governor yet, but our governor's an idiot, literally. And so, he will go ahead and do that. But anyway, so they have this thing that's going out there, and I keep getting tossed it. Everybody talking about, how the AR-15 does all this damage to the human body. And the thing that again, you have to read between the lines. You have to take a look at what is missing in order to fully understand what it is that they are trying to do to you. Now, I'm just going to say that ballistics aside, and they use like ballistics gel and things of that nature, but ballistics aside, it is true that a gun is designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that literally is to kill. There hasn't been there isn't any other use for this weapon. I mean, yeah, okay, I suppose you could use it as a club or something like that, but a gun, by its very nature, is designed to do one singular thing, and that is to kill. Now, whether the thing that you're killing is a deer or an elk or a hog or something like that, or even a rabbit or something like that, as far as taking out something that is much farther away from you than, anything else, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to send lead downrange. Okay. That's what you're shooting at is irrespective of what is, what's being done. So the whole idea that they are targeting or focused, I shouldn't say targeting, because that's obviously a weapon gun term, but the fact that they are consistently going after the AR-15 is what is bugging the crap out of me. And hence the reason I'm going to cover a lot of this tonight. But the first thing I want to do is I want to show you you'll have to excuse me because this is the first show that I don't have the ability to have, I don't have everything like set up perfect for my show. So give me just a second here. I want to make sure that I get this up. So I want to show you this video. This video is from like 5 years ago. And this video was put out on CNN. And I'm going to give you some commentary as I go through the video, just so you understand kind of the situation that we're dealing with these people, how uneducated they are with regards to some of these things. Now, this is in the middle of, or it starts in the middle of a news report. Okay. And apparently, obviously, you can see on the picture here, you can see they're at a gun range. The man in the photo right now is the reporter himself, and he was asked to essentially fire this weapon. So let me go ahead and hopefully this is going to play for you guys. I'm pretty sure it will, but.
This is what an AR-15 sounds like.
Okay. So first of all, that's loud. Not really. But here's, I want to point a couple things out. Okay. Look at the guy, look at the grimace on this guy's face. All right. Look at him. He is just like all in on this thing. All right. In terms of trying to sell this bit. Okay. But hold on. Let me just continue for just a second.
General.
Okay. So 2 things on that. If you notice, he was holding it literally in a way that no one who has ever trained with this weapon at all would hold it. For one, the stock wasn't even in his shoulder, which is how you hold every single kind of rifle and shotgun that I've ever shot. Okay. He also was like seriously grimacing and, shaking the weapon and, firing it and everything, trying to make it look like it is just this massively, scary weapon. Okay. Totally wrong way to hold this weapon. Totally wrong way. But even if he didn't, let me give you an example. Okay. I went to basic training in 1990, the tail end of 1990. I was at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and we came to our range qualifications. All right. Now, the M16 and the AR-15, and I even believe the M4, although I haven't checked this yet, they all fire the same type of cartridge or bullet. Okay. A 5.56 millimeter round. In the case of the AR-15, you can also build it to fire the 223, which is essentially an equivalent to the 5.56 millimeter round. Okay, there are differences. There's a lot more differences in terms of things like powder, the amount of powder, the weight of the bullet, and things like that. But I'm not going to dig into that. This isn't a ballistics class. But the point here is that 223 is not much bigger in terms of the bullet size than a actual 22, which is a .22 in terms of the size of the bullet itself, the lead. All right. Now, this weapon kicks back so hard. Hold on. It kicks back so hard. My drill sergeant was able to put the butt of the weapon up against his private area and fire the M16A1 version, which has full auto on it, and empty an entire 30-round magazine without changing his voice, without cringing, without doing anything. If you can take this weapon and stick it up against your nuts and fire it off as a man without any damage or injury or even any pain whatsoever, this thing does not kick that much. Okay. This guy's holding it and looking like he is just absolutely, totally scared of this rifle. Okay. And my drill sergeant did that because of the fact that we had over half of the people that were there at the range that day. And then I'm talking like 50 or 60. Over half of the people there have never, ever handled any kind of a weapon. Okay. And so he had to prove that there was nothing to fear from this rifle. This rifle is actually, and I'll go through a little bit, if I get the chance, I'll go through a little bit of how the AR-15 was developed, or the M16 in particular was developed. But the point is that this rifle is not heavy. It's not powerful. It's, in fact, the reason why the Army went to, or actually the military itself went to this, was because of the fact that the M16 was lighter, that the round was lighter. It was easier to hold on target in full auto mode than its counterpart at the time, back in the 50s and 60s, the AK-47, which fires a 7.62 millimeter round, the same round that the predecessor to the AR-15, the AR-10 actually fires. Okay. Now, I know I just threw a whole bunch of information at you really, really quick, but I want to continue with this video because I'm just going to tell you right now, this guy that they claim is a general from the Army is a complete effing embarrassment to anyone, okay, in the armed services. And I'll explain in just a minute after you see this. Watch what's coming up next.
Well, Mark Hertling served in the U.S. Army for 37 years, so he knows what the AR-15, which used to be a weapon of war, can do. And he has strong feelings about the semi-automatic assault-style rifle, which is the precursor to a weapon currently used by the military, the M4.
The truth of the matter is, they look almost exactly the same.
So this is the M4 military rifle.
Right.
This is the AR-15.
Right. A lot of people will buy this just because it's cool and they want to appear like soldiers. If you're a gun collector or a gun aficionado and you want an AR-15, you can certainly buy one, and you should.
Okay, he's about ready to break into something. Just listen very closely. He is a complete, he must have been paid a shit ton of money for this, because this guy just embarrassed the hell out of his entire 30-year military career by this. Watch.
Should be able to buy one. The problem is when it gets in the hands of the wrong people.
Originally built for the battlefield, a defining characteristic of the AR-15 is the speed and power of the bullet.
Now those are single shots. If I wanted to fire this on full semi-automatic, all I do is keep firing. Now I won't probably hit the target when I do this, when we look at.
Okay. First of all, there's no such thing as full semi-automatic. All right. That's just, I mean, again, this is embarrassing to the military. He should just like give up the whole idea of being a general. There is no such thing as full semi-automatic. There is either full auto or semi-automatic. Now, to understand, for those of you that don't know the difference, a fully automatic firearm, when you pull the trigger back once, you get multiple rounds in a series that are being fired. Think like the M60, for an example, the machine guns that, you know, are often shown within movies that fire multiple rounds off of one trigger pull. Semi-automatic is literally one round, one trigger pull, equal. You cannot, unless you've modified this weapon, you cannot fire this thing multiple times without pulling back the trigger. All right. Now let's continue with this because he's about ready to, he just said full semi-automatic. Watch his finger as he's doing this quote, full semi thing.
The target later on, but I'm going to fire about 5 shots.
Okay.
It's a weapon designed to inflict.
Okay, this guy is, I'm sorry, this guy is just a, he's horrible. Now, so here's a couple of things. Yes, all right, the weapon is designed to fire multiple rounds. Hello, that's what it was designed to do. But the AR-15 by itself was actually commissioned or originally designed and patented, by the way, by its manufacturer, the original manufacturer known as Armalite Rifle, Armalite, A-A-R, Armalite Rifle, okay, company. Now, in the 50s, they created a new way to push the action on the rifle, all right? And in reality, and that is what got patented by the developer. Now, the other thing is the developer was also dealing with lighter materials. And so this is part of where I'm going to go into a little bit of history here, but this is part of where the misnomer as a weapon of war comes into play. Okay. The AR-15 was a sporting and hunting rifle first. And the reason I say that, and a lot of people kind of complain when I say that, but the AR-15 was originally Armalite rifles. Armalite rifle ended up getting into some money problems. They went ahead and sold the patents and the design to Colt Arms. Colt Arms manufactured it in 1963 and marketed it to the general civilian public first. It wasn't until actually 1965 when its resulting change came out as the M16. Okay? So the M16 didn't go into full effect until later on in the 60s. After it had ran through some trial runs, there were some changes made, so on and so forth. And so the whole idea that the AR-15 is a weapon of war is completely false. It was actually designed and marketed originally as a hunting sporting rifle in 1963. Now, let me go ahead and bring this up. So, you know, this guy went and, you know, was all scared, and the two men, they acted like, oh, this is such a horrible weapon and everything else. Well, they literally are wimps. And the reason why I say that is, check this out. This is a 7-year-old girl about ready to fire for the first time an AR-15 rifle.
All right, safety's coming off. You're hot. Finger off the trigger. How did that feel?
Pretty good.
Excellent. Okay, let's see it again. Good trigger discipline. Trigger off. Okay. Whenever you're ready. Give us one more. Okay, finger off. And I think you got one more shot,
Yeah, I
okay?
do.
Make it count. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, so now her father is standing behind her. Okay, you can see it in the video right here. He's not holding her shoulder. He's not pushing on her. He is not trying to keep her upright in any way, shape, or form. He's got his hands on her, but you'll notice the one that you can see, it's very relaxed. Okay. This weapon is not scary. It is not a scary, bad weapon. Yes, it is a weapon. Yes, it is a gun. Okay. But it's nothing scarier or more different than any other rifle that's out there. Speaking of which, when we're talking about any other rifle, okay, and I got to bring this up. Okay, there are a couple of oh shoot, that's not what I want. Give me just a second here. I got to find it. Oh, so there's a couple of things that they really, really focus on when they try to scare people. Okay. The first of all is this idea that the AR-15 is a high velocity round. Well, guess what? All rifles, for the most part, are high velocity. There's a reason why. It's called, you have to have that velocity to deliver more of an impact to your target that is much farther away downrange than what you normally would with like a pistol, because a pistol is designed and manufactured with the intent that you're going to be firing something at something a lot closer than a rifle. Okay. Now, that being said, I want to show you this. And let me see if this comes up. Yep. Okay. So I want to show you this. And let me switch. So this right here is a Sportsman's Warehouse, sportsman.com warehouse that is basically giving us the ballistics, which is the stats and the performance and everything else for different types of ammunition. So the ammunition, of course, is between the .223 Remington and the 5.56 NATO for the AR-15. So I'm going to show you both of them real quick here. So here's the 5.56 NATO round. And as you can see, the velocity kind of drops off depending upon how, and changes depending upon how many grains or how big the actual bullet itself is. So when you have a smaller bullet, it is going to travel faster in terms of velocity. But if you look at these numbers, just look at them really quickly here. So you're looking at somewhere between 3,000, just a little over 3,000 feet per second at the muzzle. And then as it goes out, it starts dropping off. It drops to, 2,700 feet per second, 2,400 feet per second, etc. The longer the distance. Okay. So by the time it gets out to 500 yards, it's actually dropping to 1,484 or roughly 1,500 feet per second. Okay. So the .223, which is also very similar in nature, and let's pick like a 50 grain bullet. Here's a 55 grain, very similar stats. Okay. So right here, very, very similar statistics. Okay. So those are the two rounds that are for the 5.56. Okay. Or sorry, for the AR-15. Now, the claim that the Washington Post article is making is that the AR-15 is something special. It like has, a much harder, stronger, it's faster than, and this Joe Biden says this, it's, so much more powerful, more, all this other stuff. So it's going to blow up things. It's going to blow you in half kind of deal. Okay. So let me just go down here to another common, very common, hunting round, the .270. So here's the .270. Oh, well, now wait a minute. Let's look at these bullets. I'm going to try. First of all, the bullet itself is heavier. If you'll notice, it starts off at 120 grain. So the bullet itself is heavier, but wait a minute. Look at these velocity numbers. They're kind of at about the same numbers as that 5.56 millimeter was and the 223. Okay. Well, wait a minute. What about if we take out the two, what about another common one? Oh, let's see. The 30-30 Winchester is a common hunting round. Oh, hold up. Wait. Oh my gosh. These are like twice the weight, 140, 160 grain. They're twice the weight. Look at their muzzle velocity. Very comparable to the 5.56 and the 223. Okay. What about a 308? Okay. Which is another hunting round. Another one. Here it is. High velocity. Again, this is a 160 grain bullet. So here's the thing. Okay. And I'm trying to make this point. I'm being a little sarcastic in doing so, but I'm trying to make this point. Every single rifle ever manufactured, all are considered high velocity. And to be honest with you, can do very similar damage to what they are pointing out in the Washington Post article and subsequent video. Now, that article and video was actually put together by a trauma surgeon. And he talks about the trauma part, in saying, oh, well, the 5.56 millimeter, the AR, so on and so forth, the AR is just so much more damaging. Well, yeah, it's more damaging because of the fact that, yes, it is a higher velocity round. It does do more damage to the body. Okay, it's going to. That's its point. Now, when you get a handgun round, which I don't have one popping up here, but when you get a handgun round, because it travels much slower, it's rough, at least a half to maybe 2/3 slower than a rifle round. It's lower velocity, and generally speaking, it's going to be about the same weight, but it's going to do less damage. Now, the other thing that article doesn't do is it doesn't compare the difference between what is a full metal jacket bullet, which basically means that it's full metal all the way around the bullet, versus like a hollow point, which is designed to expand, and realistically cause more damage, but also not travel all the way through the body. So we're dealing with people who basically have no idea, no clue whatsoever in terms of these weapons to be able to understand what's going on with this kind of scenario. And I just get frustrated over these people. It's like, well, why do we have to ban the AR-15? Well, if we're going to ban the AR-15, why don't we ban the, I can't remember what's close to it, but there's a Ruger rifle that does the same thing. Anyway, the point being here is that all of these rifles, they can do similar damage to the body when they're used against a human. They are all weapons designed to kill. That's what they're supposed to do. That's their job. So why target the AR-15? Well, the reason being is because it's a scary looking black rifle, and it's also the closest in similarity to what you see on the movie screen and everything else in terms of things like the M16 in older Vietnam War movies. Today, the M14, those kinds of things. They want to focus on that type of weapon because it looks scary, even though there are many other rifles that are out there, semi-automatic, literally one bullet per trigger pull, semi-automatic, and they have no real difference. And plus, they potentially could make more damage because of a heavier bullet and more feet per second in terms of muzzle velocity, depending upon the caliber and the type of cartridge that's being used, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the other thing that is commonly argued about is, well, the AR-15 is used in all kinds of mass shootings. Really? Well, I got something for that. Let me show you this. So this is from Statista, which is a middle-of-the-road statistics gathering. And I know that, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit for you guys. I hate doing this without showing you the truth and facts and everything else. So here it is. Weapons types used in mass shootings in the United States between 1982 and April of 2023 by the number of weapons and incidences. So the number of weapon used is the light blue. The dark blue is the number of incidences. You have handguns all the way on what would be the left side over there, your left. Okay. Handguns, 161 numbers of weapons used. Okay. 111 number of incidences that rifles were used. Dropping down to roughly half of that was 65 different types of weapon or number of weapons used, rifles, and 59 numbers of incidences. In shotguns, we have 30 and 28. Folks, the handgun is used more than any other weapon for mass shootings. Why? Because a handgun is easier to conceal. It is easier to handle in crowds and everything else. It's not that long. It's smaller. It's concealable. It can be swung around faster. You don't have the ability to move that quickly and easily with a rifle or a shotgun. Okay? It's just not going to happen. And this just gets so frustrating to me. All right. And speaking of which, they keep harping, some of these people keep harping on the idea that, white people are to blame. White men in particular are to blame on all of this stuff. Well, hate to bust your bubble on this one. So here's the rate of gun deaths in the United States on average. Now, this one's only from 2012 to 2014 by race, and this is per 100,000 population. Oh, wait a minute. Look over here. Black at 20. Annual number of deaths per 100,000. 20 and then whites are like half, roughly half. Hispanics, Native Americans, and Asians. Okay. Now, this, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. 13% of the population has, in multiple times, committed roughly 50% of the violent crime in the entire country. Okay? It just is. It's just, anyway. Okay, so one other site. Now, these two charts, by the way, I did put them in the show notes. So if you want to go and take a look, you can go and take a look at them. You should be able to see them, I'm hoping. But regardless, if you have to sign up, it's free for the base account. It's free. Now, let me show you this site as well. I got to get it back to 100% here. So let me show you this site as well. So this is gun control based off of justfacts.com. Now they have a huge article here of just the individual facts that are dealing with gun control. They go through everything. They go through talking about, the types of different weapons and showing examples of each. They talk about the projectile and the casing and, all of that kind of stuff with the cartridge and all of those things. Okay. The difference between a magazine and a clip, which is another thing that they kick off. Okay. But if you go to justfacts.com/gun control, link is in the show notes, you'll be able to get all of these facts and everything. Like, well, here's an example. Here's a traditional rifle. Here's a modern semi-automatic rifle. Again, they're rifles. That's what they are. Okay. But a couple of things stood out to me. First of all, this chart, which you'll take a look, it runs from 1960 to 2021. Now, one thing I bring this chart up for a reason. And the reason I bring it up is because of the fact that one of the claims that the left keeps talking about is they keep talking about how the 1994 the 1994 gun ban or assault weapons ban, which also known as the Brady Bill by those of us who can remember back that far. The 1994 assault weapons ban affected gun crime. Okay. These are FBI murder rate estimates. It's again, based off of per 100,000 people, and it's pretty much just on guns. Now, 1994. So this is 1990. Right here at this. And so you see how it goes and does like two peaks, and then there's a valley and a little hiccup and then another peak. Okay. So 1994 gun ban was enabled, and then it just started dropping off, and then kind of went steady for a little bit and then dropped off again. 2000, which is right where things started going steady. Okay. That was, that's when the gun ban ended. Okay. So another thing that they talk about is oh, England, they don't have guns, that kind of stuff. So here's something. Here's homicides reported by police in England and Wales. Well, they have two gun control laws listed here. They got one in 1968 and one in 1997. But I want you to notice that the homicides being reported where guns were used has steadily increased, even though they had two bans. Oh, and speaking of that, all right, let's not necessarily compare nationwide. All right. Let's not compare nationwide. What about one of the cities in America that has like the highest gun laws, gun prevention laws? City of Chicago. And what's even better is these are handguns. Well, they've got two dots on this. You've got the dot on the left, your left, which basically says the handgun ban becomes effective. And then the dot on the right is when the handgun ban was lifted. It actually got worse in Chicago from, 1990 or so, roughly 87 or so, and basically stayed worse regardless of whether the handguns were available or not. And these were committed with handguns. I mean, this is so frustrating for these people to go through and make all these statements and claims. They're all false. But I also have one other thing to tell you and show you. And that is one of the biggest things that I have been saying is the reason why people are doing these mass murders has nothing to do with guns, but everything to do with mental issues, mental health. Well, I found this, and again, this is on justfacts.com, and I found this, and I thought it was just incredible for me to, that I've never made this correlation before. Okay. But I want to show you this. So here's the first thing, because the other thing that a lot of people do is they talk about this, and I got to find it here. Here we go. So they talk about how the United States compares to places like Japan and so on and so forth. Well, here is the psychiatric institutionalization rates in developed nations according to statistics based on 2019 values. So I'm going to blow this up just a little bit here so you guys can see this. But take a look. So here's the United States. Is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh one over from the left at a less than 0.05% of the population has been institutionalized. Now, who's all the way over here on the right above my head, right here, right here? That's Japan. With over a quarter of their population being institutionalized. Folks, it's not the guns. I keep saying this over and over. It is not the guns. It is the person holding the weapon that's the problem. But here's a sample that was put together by this site. And this I never even really thought of. But take a look at this. So here's the population adjusted indiscriminate mass shootings per year from 1900 all the way up to 2018. Now, they broke it out into 3 parts. The part on the far left, the lowest, is before the deinstitutionalization came from, okay? And then during deinstitutionalization, which basically means when we in America were shutting down all of our mental institutions, and then after taking out our mental institutions. Well, take a look. From 1900 to 1905, there was basically less than 1 incident per year. When we were closing down those institutions, okay, you're looking at 1966 to 1999, it jumped to almost 4 incidents per year, broken down in that time period. And now that we've got them closed, we're looking at 5 incidences per year, 2000 to 2018. Now, the question has been asked, what is their definition of mass? Well, the definition, I believe, in terms of mass shootings is kind of along the lines of the 4, the FBI's, which basically means 4 or more injuries from a person utilizing a weapon or a gun in this case. So maybe it's not the gun. I think they're barking up the wrong tree. It's not the gun. It's mental illness and problems and issues that we have. Now, here's one this is interesting, which further here's the portion of U.S. populations that actually was in public psychiatric hospitals. And if you'll notice, in 1955, we had close to a 0.35% between basically around, let's say, a 0.33% of the U.S. population was actually in hospitals. Then in 1994, that dropped to less than, let's say, roughly 0.0025. 2010 was even lower than that. And then 2019, it's actually increased a little bit. But this is not even close to where it should be, folks. Okay? This is not where it should be. We need to really focus on mental health in our country if we want to stop these mass shootings. It has nothing to do with the weapon. It has nothing to do with, the ability to get a hold of it. I believe it has everything to do with a couple of things. First of all, every single incident of a mass shooter has always been 3 to 4 things have been common. 1 is they are a mental illness. 2, they've had drugs and or alcohol issues. 3 is a lack of a family structure in some way. And then 4 is that the the people who were in charge in terms of the authorities, whether it's at a school or whether it's at whether it's the actual authorities themselves, they are the ones that fail to report things to make sure that these people are getting off. Okay. This popped in the Washington Examiner. I've got this one down there. But apparently, despite Joe Biden's efforts to blame the gun, more people are actually thinking, believe it or not, this is scary, but more people are actually thinking that it's still the brain. It is definitely mental illness that's the problem. And it's a Rasmussen report survey that was released between the last two mass shootings. So this was between Nashville and Louisville. When given the choice of 6 reasons, 42% who were asked said mental health. Just 29% chose access to firearms. And they also had talked about where the gap, so more Democrats by a margin of 43 to 33 blame access to guns. So again, Democrats, access to guns because they've been sucking up the Kool-Aid media, over mental health problems for the mass shootings, whereas Republicans, only 10% are blaming gun access and mental health is at 54%. So that just popped. I mean, come on, we're smart. Republicans are much more smarter than our Democrat colleagues. All right. Let me take a second. All right. I have an absolute wonderful pet of the week for you tonight. Where is that? There it is.
Please check your mailbox. A new message has arrived.
All right. Tonight's pet of the week was submitted by Sabo OH, Ohio. All right. Let me introduce you to Henry. This is Henry. And this is what Sabo wrote. Hello, Whiskey. Here is my Henry dog. He is over 13 years old and as sweet as can be. He's been with me since he was 6 weeks old. Last December, we had a scare when he all of a sudden lost the ability to walk. We took him to the emergency vet where they discovered a large mass on his spleen. He had a 50-50 chance of making it through surgery, and it was a 70% chance that the mass was actually cancer. It was an absolute miracle he beat all the odds. The non-cancerous 3.5-pound mass was removed along with his spleen, and he recovered without issues. Henry loves watching the squirrels, birds, and rabbits, no longer interested in chasing them. Thanks for letting me share him with the Whiskey Warriors. And cordially, Henry's human, Sabo. Now, we got some other pictures here. So this one, Sabo obviously was being a dirty dog and getting into some mud. And here's Sabo rolling around in the snow. And here's Sabo right after surgery. So obviously you can see they've got stuff on to keep him from licking his, this is Henry, not Sabo, Henry. Henry after surgery. And this is Henry cruising along down the road. You know, I've got my dog likes to look out the window and stuff sometimes too. And yes, you're right. I apologize. It is not Sabo. It is Henry. It's from you, but it's Henry. Henry is the pet's name, the puppy's name. And here is Henry, who apparently likes to read. And he's reading, let's see if I can read this, Dogs in the Athenian Agora. Yeah. There we go. Henry is just a good boy. I am so glad that you were able to find Henry, find out what was wrong with Henry, and that it was good, that it wasn't a actual mass for him. That, it's, our pets are wonderful, wonderful additions to our family. But at the same time, it really sucks when they go. So I'm always happy. I love seeing like recovery, recovery stories like this and hearing about this. Let's see if do I have anything more? Yeah, no, he goes back to, that's him playing in the mud. Hopefully he's got a long life with you ahead of things. All right. Do me a favor. If you would like to submit your pet or pets for consideration for the pet of the week on Wednesday night, do so at FANS, FANS. That's Foxtrot Alpha November Sierra at whiskeymusings.online. That's FANS at whiskeymusings.online. The link is actually in the description, video description. Yeah, so do that. I think I have one more pet for next week, so I'm almost out of the queue for it. And also, you can use that same email address to send me questions for whiskey. I'm not exactly sure if I have one for this week, for Saturday night's questions for whiskey. So if you want to send one in, you can do that at fans at whiskeymusings.online also. All right. So enough of the pet of the week. Now, I'm off my soapbox for the AR-15. I just get so frustrated with people who just don't understand, and they make all these comments and everything else. Anyway, all right. So this just popped. I got a few articles here, but this just popped from, yeah. So this just popped just tonight, and I'm really kind of surprised that I'm not surprised, but check this out right here. This is from Just the News. This article did not make it into the show notes because it just popped like right before I came on to the show. Bank records show millions in transactions between Hunter Biden and China firms, according to Senator Johnson. Now, Senator Johnson says the records show the Biden family was involved with the now defunct CEFC, China Energy, which had connections to the Chinese Communist Party. Wisconsin GOP Senator Ron Johnson says the Chinese American financial institution Cathay Bank has given Senate Republicans records showing millions of dollars going from Chinese companies to President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Yeah, this just keeps getting better and better for these. Now, whether or not they're actually going to do anything about it, I don't know. But they continually go after Trump for a whole bunch of BS crap, and they sit here and look at this and just give him a pass. So supposedly the firm gave $1 million to Hudson West 3, which was a joint venture owned by Hunter Biden and Gongwen Dong, a business associate of the CEFC's founder and chairman, Yi Jianming, according to the bank records. In my mind, said Johnson, this is a quote from him, in my mind, it's the Chinese government telling Joe Biden, we've got the goods on you, buddy, and we're willing to dish it up. And these records were provided by banks, also include those from the president's brother, James Biden. Cathay Bank has offices in LA and China. And Johnson says the bank turned over records to him and Iowa GOP Senator Chuck Grassley. Other banks have denied the senator's requests for records, but they're digging into it. They're getting to the bottom of this. And speaking of problems, that's just one. That's just one of the problems. Let's see. Where is it at? Biden's student loan forgiveness plan faces another obstacle in Congress. Now, I don't know if you recall, but Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is essentially they wanted to forgive loans, student loans on, certain people, and they wanted to just give away that money for free. Now, keep in mind that whenever the government gives money away for free, quote unquote, it's not actually free. The cost is actually borne by the taxpayers because of the fact that government does not make anything. Ergo, it cannot give away anything that it does not take from someone else. That's the way our government works. But apparently, there are some people, and granted, there's several lawsuits that are going through. In fact, I'm fully expecting that when the first lawsuit hits the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court is basically going to say, yeah, you can't do this. But apparently, and this is a quote from Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, who's a ranking member of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. He says President Biden is not forgiving debt. He is shifting the burden of student loans off of the borrowers who willingly took on their debt and placing it onto those who chose to not go to college or already fulfilled their commitment to pay off their loans. It is extremely unfair to punish these Americans, forcing them to pay the bill for these irresponsible and unfair student loan schemes. So there's at least 7 lawsuits that were filed in the weeks following the announcement, all making various claims the plan was illegal. A judge then blocked it just 2 days after Election Day, leading to accusations that the Biden administration intentionally misled 43 million borrowers. Oh, gee, the Biden administration lying. Wow. Why isn't that part of the news? But anyway, so again, I don't think this is really going to go anywhere. I think once it hits the Supreme Court, they're gonna cut it out. But again, Biden administration lying seems to be the flavor of the month, because this popped. Let's see, this is the 12th, so it popped yesterday that. Yeah, the Biden administration officials were reportedly involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid, despite telling us otherwise. And yeah, these guys, honestly, they apparently used a very obscure methodology to push the raid on Mar-a-Lago, or to encourage it. Even though Biden and the administration said, Karine Jean-Pierre behind the mic said, yeah, we don't know anything about it. We don't have any comments about it. We don't get involved in DOJ affairs, et cetera, et cetera. Well, obviously the Biden administration went ahead and, pushed it. Okay. So apparently, this is from, let's see. So this is Reed Rubenstein, America First Legal Senior Counselor and Director of Oversight and Investigations, said in a post on his social media Tuesday, the evidence further suggests that Biden officials in the executive office of the president and the Department of Justice unlawfully abused their power, then lied about it to the American people. This government, it seems, acknowledges no limits on its powers to harass, intimidate, and silence its political opponents. His comments come from a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, that found that the FBI initially obtained access to Trump records through a special access request from the Biden White House. Now, those special access requests basically are, they're used, but they're not used that often, which basically what they do is they make a request to go get records from a previous administration in order to make a decision on something that is relevant in the now with the current administration. And that's what the special action request is. But yeah, again, Biden administration officials went ahead and made that request to the FBI, which pushed it that way. Well, Hunter Biden's and Joe Biden's woes have not stopped, Because if you take a look at this article from the New York Post that was posted yesterday, Joe Biden apparently boosted Ukraine gas industry as Hunter took his role at Burisma. Then Vice President Joe Biden visited Ukraine on a mission to bolster the country's energy industry days after his son joined the board of the natural gas company in 2014, which former White House stenographer claims implicates the now 80-year-old in a foreign influence peddling kickback scheme. Mike McCormick said that he was with the current National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, then a Biden aide, in the press cabin of Air Force Two en route to Kiev on April 21st, 2014. As he outlined how the world's wealthiest country would help the deeply corrupt post-Soviet state build its gas industry. Giving a rundown on Biden's priorities for the trip, Sullivan, described as a senior administration official, said the then vice president would discuss with Ukrainian officials medium and long-term strategies to boost conventional gas production and also to begin to take advantage of the unconventional gas reserves that are in Ukraine. Asked for details, the Biden aide said the U.S. was interested in providing technical assistance to help Ukraine be able to produce to boost production in their conventional gas fields, where presently they aren't getting the maximum of what they could be, while offering technical assistance relating to a regulatory framework and also the technology that would be required to extract unconventional gas resources. And Ukraine has meaningful reserves of unconventional gas, according to the latest estimates. So in other words, Joe Biden lied yet again. Okay. Now, for those people that don't understand, a stenographer is somebody who is basically sitting in a machine and recording the words that are being stated in meetings. They use stenographers in courts of law. They use stenographers to take depositions. They use stenographers in almost any location where recording devices cannot necessarily be used. Now, yeah, this literally is, again, yet another smoking gun on not only Joe Biden's lying about it, but also the fact that he knew what was going on with Hunter. He just plain knew what was happening with Hunter Biden and his nefarious things. He was taking advantage of it and gaining millions of dollars for the family over all of this. Okay. Now, one thing that I don't know if you guys heard about, but this past weekend, China conducted a simulated attack on Taiwan in terms of how they potentially would go and attack the little island. All right. This is a bit of a problem. They are really, really pushing and working more and more toward what will essentially be an invasion of Taiwan. Now, I'm not the only one that's actually looking at this, honestly. This popped in the Epoch Times. China is seriously preparing to invade Taiwan from a former Marine colonel. Grant Newsham, Newsham, N-E-W-S-H-A-M, it's probably Newsham, a retired Marine colonel and senior research fellow at the Japan Forum for Strategic Studies, says that China is seriously preparing for an invasion of Taiwan, or for the invasion of Taiwan. China reportedly sent 42 warplanes and 8 naval vessels toward Taiwan on April 8th in response to Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on April 5th. Beijing's actions came as the Chinese Communist Party's military announced on April 8th that it was beginning 3 days of combat readiness patrols and joint sword exercises around Taiwan involving police patrols. During the drills, dozens of Chinese warplanes were spotted crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait and Taiwan Southwest ADIZ. Even on April 11th, after its 3-day military exercises, the regime's provocative military actions continued. Newsham recently told China in Focus on NTD that they've effectively said this mutually agreed upon demarcation line down the middle of the Taiwan Strait doesn't matter, and they don't recognize it, and they are now flying their aircraft across it all the time. Okay, folks, I mean, I'm sorry, but we, unless something happens soon, we are really in a bad situation. If Taiwan gets taken over, I've said it on this program before, if Taiwan gets taken over, you can kiss goodbye most, if not all, of our electronics. 90% of our electronics have a piece of tech coming from Taiwan. And this isn't just in consumer grade products. This is everything, military products, etc., etc. So this is ridiculous that we're even allowing this to happen. But again, we've got a brain dead turnip in our freaking front office or our White House, and there's no way that he is even going to remotely. He's been wrong on just about every foreign policy action in his entire career, and he just is a complete mess. In fact, it's getting so bad that even France, now understand France has been an ally of ours for a very long time. They really have not won any wars or anything like that. They really have not done a whole heck of a lot outside of their help during the Revolutionary War for us, but they're still an ally of ours. And as an ally of ours, you would expect that they would support us and at least stand with us on things. Well, I don't know if anybody heard, but Macron mentioned that if China invades Taiwan and we do something to go against China for that France is not going to support and no longer follow the U.S. In terms of how this is going to happen. Okay. And Trump was right. Check this out in the Epoch Times. Trump was right in the fact that he accuses Macron of pandering to China following those remarks. So, yeah, this is just a complete disaster, because not only is our dollar being devalued in certain key areas across the globe as the reserve currency and the currency being used for global trade, but we also now have at least the beginning of our longtime allies saying that they're basically not going to back us on this stuff. Speaking of not backing somebody on stuff, by the way, furthering on with Trump sues Michael Cohen for $500 million. He apparently is suing him, and this was a lawsuit filed today in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, accuses Cohen of betraying the attorney-client privilege, improper enrichment, and spreading falsehoods. The suit cites Cohen's public statements, including in books, and says Cohen ignored cease and desist orders. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Oh my goodness. As things heat up, 2024 is going to be a complete mess. And speaking about that, it's not just us in here that are watching it. You can be guaranteed that the world is watching as Democrats are undermining America from within. They are all paying attention. China knows that we're vulnerable. China knows that we have our institutional problems and that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, this whole thing with Alvin Bragg and going after Trump and everything else, all this is doing is weakening America. That is all it is doing, is weakening us on the world stage, as if we really needed any more help, considering that Biden is, in office. The weak vegetable of a president that we have. Yeah. Anyway, trust me, everybody is looking back and seeing us. We are a literal laughingstock right now on the world stage. And this is entirely upsetting, incredibly upsetting. But unfortunately, there really isn't much that we can do. We can just watch the train wreck and hopefully pick up the pieces after everything is taken care of. Hopefully 2024 is not going to be the big explosion that I'm expecting it to be. 2024, 2025, because, both Taiwan and us, we both have elections in 2024. So it would be prime time for China to go ahead and invade Taiwan right when we're in a crucial point in our history. And this is going to be just a pain. I'm sorry. If you're not preparing now, you really should be, to be completely honest. And that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor. If you like the shows that I put together, if you like the channel, if you like the broadcast, go head on over to Rumble, sign up for an account. It's free, and follow the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel. I'm serving a suspension on YouTube. I've got maybe a day or two left. So Saturday, I will more than likely be streaming again on YouTube, but I am seriously considering leaving YouTube. Seriously considering leaving YouTube completely. They have really done nothing much for me. And I understand I've got 109 subscribers over there. I don't necessarily want to lose those folks, but yeah, it's really, really looking to be a very poor situation for me over there. And I don't know why I keep streaming to them. I know I've said that I don't want to stream, I don't want to stop streaming until they kick me off. But I'm seriously considering after this last 2 weeks, whether or not this was going to be a worthwhile effort on YouTube. Rumble is definitely the place to be. Facebook is definitely the place to be, in terms of that, because all of you have followed me on both of those places. So that is just fantastic. And I can't thank you enough. All right. We will see you Saturday night right here on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Have a great rest of your week. And like I said, we'll see you on Saturday. Good night, everybody.